story begins in 1987 in the heart of Monroe County, Alabama. Walter McMillian, known to his friends as Johnny D. Without warning, police swarm him. "Good evening, officer," he says, his voice steady but laced with confusion. "Y'all need my license or anything? Y'all got me confused with somebody." Their response is cold, their handcuffs colder. They accuse him of the brutal murder of Rhonda Morrison, an 18-year-old white girl who worked at a dry cleaning store. There's no evidence, no motive, no reason to pin this on Walter, yet they do. His arrest is swift, his trial swifter. In that stark, cold room, they share stories of childhood, of music played in church, of lives that led them to this moment. "I played piano in church growing up," Henry says, a faint smile breaking through. "God is good." But the warmth is shattered when a prison guard storms in, his voice dripping with contempt. "You need to shut your mouth," he barks, yanking Henry away with no regard for his dignity. "It's okay, Bryan," Henry calls, his voice trembling but resolute. 2 years later, Bryan graduates from Harvard, his future gleaming with lucrative job offers. But he turns his back on them all. Instead, he heads to Alabama, where death row looms large and justice feels like a distant dream. In Alabama, he meets Eva Ansley, a woman with steel in her spine and a heart full of purpose. She's long dreamed of starting a legal center for death row inmates, and together they found the Equal Justice Initiative, a beacon of hope in a state drowning in despair. But their mission hits a wall early. A white landlord, initially willing to rent them office space, backs out when he learns they're helping death row prisoners. "I don't want any part of that," he sneers. Eva, undeterred, opens her home to Bryan. "True allies don't wait for comfort," she says with a defiant spark. They show up where it counts. At Eva's house, she shares her why. Years ago, she read about a death row inmate abandoned by the system, his story haunting her like a ghost. She searched for someone to fight for him, nearly giving up, until Bryan called, offering legal support and federal funding. "I was in before you even offered me the job," she confesses with a wry smile, glancing at her husband. Doug doesn't know about that part yet. "Sorry, honey." Their laughter is brief but warm, a flicker of light in the darkness. Bryan's first prison visit is a gauntlet. Before he can even meet his clients, a guard subjects him to a humiliating strip search. "You're really a lawyer?" the guard scoffs. "Take everything off." Bryan's shock is palpable, but he complies, his dignity stripped away. Even lawyers fighting for justice aren't spared from humiliation, he thinks bitterly. The system knows no shame. Inside, he meets 6 death row inmates, each with a story that cuts deep. Herbert Richardson, a Vietnam veteran, speaks of his untreated PTSD, his mind fractured by war. "I placed a bomb on a woman's porch," he admits, his voice heavy with regret. "But I didn't mean to kill nobody." Bryan listens, his heart aching. "Whatever you did," he says softly, "your life is still meaningful." Then he meets Walter McMillian. Johnny D is a shadow of the man he once was, his hope ground to dust. "Last lawyer sat where you sit," he says, his voice flat. "Said the family ran out of money. Money ran out, he ran out." He warns Bryan that taking his case is a dangerous path. "You rich boy from Harvard, you don't know what it is down here," he says, his eyes burning with hard-earned truth. "They'll destroy you." Walter's anger spills over as he recounts his trial. No fingerprints, no evidence, just the lies of a man cutting a deal with the police. "When you're guilty from the moment you're born, no evidence matters," he says, his voice breaking. Overwhelmed, he walks away, not yet ready to trust. Back at Eva's, Bryan pores over case files, his conviction growing. "I don't think McMillian did it," he tells her, his voice firm. The key witness, Ralph Myers, is a career criminal with a murky past. And another witness, Bill Hooks, claims he saw Walter's truck near the crime scene. But something feels off. Bryan suspects Myers fabricated his story to escape a harsher sentence. He meets with Tommy Chapman, the district attorney, hoping for an ally. But Chapman, dismissive, warns that reopening the case will stir trouble. Walter brought pain to this town, he says coldly. Bryan's response is calm but unyielding. It isn't my job to make people happy. It's to achieve justice for my client. As he leaves, he sees 3 black men arrested on the street, their faces etched with resignation. The injustice is relentless, but it only fuels his resolve. At Walter's home, Bryan meets Minnie, Walter's wife, and their family. They're unwavering. Walter couldn't have done it. On the day of the murder, he was hosting a fish fry for their church, working on his truck with his son, John. A family member reveals a damning detail. Walter's affair with a white woman sparked vicious rumors. First, they called him a cheater, then a drug dealer, they say. By the time someone called him a murderer, nobody thought twice. Minnie, though hurt by the affair, stands by him. He's still the father of my children, she says, her voice steady. A breakthrough comes when Darnell Houston, a friend of Walter's son, confirms Bill Hooks lied. We were fixing a car engine that morning, he says, but fear grips him. Signing a statement could cost him everything. After hesitation, he agrees, giving Bryan a lifeline. Finally, a crack in the wall, Bryan thinks, hope flickering. When Bryan visits Walter again, something has shifted. Walter, touched by Bryan's visit to his family, softens. Minnie wanted me to give this to you, Bryan says, handing him a small keepsake. Walter's eyes glisten. Why is a man from Harvard doing this, he asks, bewildered. Bryan's answer is raw, personal. When I was a teenager, my grandfather was murdered over a black and white TV, he says, his voice thick with pain. Nobody helped us. To them, he was just another black man killed in the projects. That loss taught Bryan what it means to be invisible, to be discarded. That's why I'm here, he says. Walter listens, his walls crumbling. Let's get to work, he says, a spark of trust igniting. But danger looms. Herbert's execution date is set, and Eva receives a chilling threat. Stop helping Johnny D, or her house will be bombed. Fear grips her, but she refuses to back down. A former police officer offers a sliver of hope, but Darnell is arrested for perjury after signing the statement. Furious, he blames Bryan and withdraws. At the sheriff's office, Bryan faces Sheriff Tate and Chapman. Their camaraderie a stark reminder of the system's unity against him. Worse, the court denies his motion to reopen Walter's case. Defeated but unbroken, Bryan visits Walter, who urges him to confront Ralph Myers. In the prison cafeteria, Myers is cagey, dodging questions. But Bryan persists, uncovering a critical detail. Myers was questioned the day he was arrested. When people get obsessed with solving a crime, they'll do anything. Bryan digs deeper, discovering a timeline discrepancy. Myers' court statement came months after his initial questioning. At the Escambia County Courthouse, he unearths tape where Myers tells Sheriff Tate, "I don't know a damn thing." This is proof of Walter's innocence. As Herbert's execution looms, Bryan's plea for a stay is denied. Herbert dies in the electric chair, the loss crushing Bryan. But Johnny's words steady him. Keep fighting. Then a bombshell, Myers admits. He was tortured and threatened with death row to lie. At the new trial, he breaks down, confessing Johnny D had nothing to do with it. A doctor confirms Myers' mental trauma, and the former officer testifies the body was found face down, contradicting Myers' story. Yet the court still denies a new trial, sending Walter back to death row. Bryan's despair deepens, but Walter's gratitude anchors him. For the first time, "I feel like myself," Walter says, his voice warm. "You gave me my truth back." Bryan rallies, appealing to the Alabama Supreme Court and appearing on *60 Minutes* to spotlight Walter's case. The public outcry grows, and the Supreme Court overturns the lower court's ruling, granting a new trial. Chapman, cornered, reluctantly supports the motion. In a triumphant moment, the charges against Walter are dropped. He walks free, embracing his family, tears streaming down his face. The epilogue is a testament to Bryan's legacy. Through the Equal Justice Initiative, he and his team free over 140 death row inmates, including Anthony Ray Henson, Walter's cellmate, released in 2015. Bryan and Walter remain close until Walter's death in 2013 from dementia. One case became a crusade, the text reads. Justice delayed isn't justice denied if you never stop fighting.